listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
Welcome to the GM Shuffle. I am Geoff Schwartz alongside Marty, Hurney. We're here to talk about all the NFL this weekend. Every team playing 16 games, Marty. Thursday night, of course, all day Sunday, then 2 on Monday. They're staggered this time. They're back-to-back, right? So we get to watch them in their entirety without having to figure out what channel they're on. I love it, Marty. How was the conclusion of week 1 for you Monday night?
Really good, Geoff. It kind of played out, what we talked about the quarterbacks from the 24 class. We had 2 of them going against each other. And really, Caleb Williams comes out, completes his first 10 passes, shows all his physical ability. But again, first-year head coach, coordinator with Caleb Williams. I think it's going to take some time. I think he's going to be really good. But I think J.J. McCarthy started out rough, but then you saw that the comfort of the Kevin O'Connell system that he had compared to maybe Caleb Williams with Ben Johnson, still trying to learn it and get used to the checks at the line. Thought it was a really good game, and the Vikings, we said last week, the Vikings, I think, are just a tad ahead of the Bears in their development.
One thing we notice throughout the NFL is when a quarterback struggles after the first set of plays, that's, to me, not a great sign, right? Early on, Caleb Williams was great. He had that scripted set of plays, and obviously after the first couple of drives, it went sideways. That's something to watch now as the development of Caleb Williams and other guys. We'll talk about some quarterbacks this week that might be good early in games, but fade at the end. The next step for Williams is now obviously being more accurate and more on time when you're off those plays you've practiced all week, off that early script, things that you have set up for success. One quarterback that's not going to be playing for a little bit of time is the 49ers' Brock Purdy, who has a turf toe variant and out for 2 to 5 weeks. Marty, I've had a turf toe. I'm sure that most players have had a turf toe. I don't know what a turf toe variant is. Is it the Delta, the Omicron? Like, what variant are we talking about here when it comes to turf toe? I've never heard of a variant. You either have an injury, you don't. There's different degrees of turf toe. Now, I'm actually, and also position, right? Like, I can play with a turf toe probably better than someone who has to move a little bit more than an offensive lineman. But I'm still kind of surprised at this quarterback position, the turf toe is this bad that they're projecting 2 to 5 weeks already.
Turf toe is a ligament, right, Geoff? Is that it's a ligament in the toe?
It's different things. It can be like the bones in your toe and like can basically break. It can be a ligament. It could be underneath your toe. That plantar plate a little bit can get disrupted when you have a turf toe. I dislocated my big toe. So that's not a turf. I didn't get turf toe because I didn't hurt the turf toe elements. I tore my plantar plate, but turf toe is sort of all of that combined. So like any injury, there's different degrees of it, right? I don't know if they grade this 1, 2, and 3 like they do a hamstring strain or an MCL or a knee injury, but 2 to 5 weeks is a pretty broad range of outcomes. A lot of injuries, typically you sort of know when the date is going to be. Obviously for this, they're sort of seeing where he ends up in his rehab.
I think, Geoff, too, it's an injury that can really, better than I, bothers you the whole season, right? So maybe they want to give him time to get that thing corrected. But I always drop my head when the trainer came and said somebody had turf toe, because I think it's an injury that's more serious than it sounds.
It is because, and I learned this the hard way, Marty, until you lose the function of your big toe, you don't realize how important it is. And when I lost the function of my big toe for weeks, when I had my dislocated toe, you realize how important it is to everything you do in life, especially football. Yeah. And, and obviously for a guy like Purdy, who's going to be moving back in the pocket and moving around and wanting to make plays, obviously you want to be able to use your feet the best way possible. So let's turn our attention now to Mac Jones, who's going to start for the Niners this weekend. And the Niners and Mac Jones reuniting, not really reuniting, but joining forces after the draft, where there was a lot of rumors that the Niners were trading up for Mac Jones. Marty, the timing feels great for the Niners to have Mac Jones there as their backup. Talk more about what this might mean for the 49ers.
Well, I mean, this is a quarterback that they've liked from the get-go, Geoff. I mean, I laugh at this league sometimes about how things happen that, you got to be careful, take the high road because you never know where you're going to end up. And Mac Jones and Trey Lance, it went back and forth among circles. We're all trying to find out who's going to draft who. And the 49ers traded up early and got to 3 for swapping their 12th pick, I think it was overall, and then giving the first rounder in the next 2 years plus a third rounder. And, the Trey Lance experiment didn't work out. But it was so close. I mean, it was really the day before that, everybody started finding out, oh, it looks like Trey Lance over Mac Jones. But I think that, listen, every time we talk about the 49ers, I just I can't overlook Kyle Shanahan. And I think he can do anything offensively that he puts his mind to. And I don't know, Geoff, I don't see a great drop off with Matt Jones. Now, I have not given Brock Purdy the credit he deserves, but I don't know. I don't see a huge drop off. Do you?
Well, I do. I think Mac Jones is not as good as Purdy, so that's obviously a drop off that's there. But think about it too. Jawan Jennings is questionable, right? He might not play. So now you're down Jawan Jennings, you're down Ayuk, you're down Kittle. Those we know you're down. So now you're down your starting tight end, your 2 best wide receivers, and your offensive line is okay, not great. And Trent Williams oddly struggled in week 1 compared to his standard. So now you're on the road. Now, the Saints are not a formidable opponent. I get that. But you're handing it over to Mac Jones now, who just really had one season where he was great, otherwise just been okay. So I think Purdy doesn't get enough credit. I think the people that like him probably like him a tad too much. Like, I think there's this kind of weird dynamic with how we talk about Brock Purdy. But I think there will be a drop-off. I do agree with you, though. Kyle Shanahan's ability to scheme up an offense is 1B, 1A, depending on 1C, like McVay, Shanahan, and Andy Reid, sort of in that upper tier of offensive coordinators and play callers. But you know this, I know this. It works great on first and 10, second and 3, third and 8, third and 9. So if the Saints are good in first down defense and are able to sort of push the Niners back a little bit, that's where I think the issues are with Mac Jones. Is you don't want to get in third and long, so the Niners have to work on winning first and second down.
I agree with you, Geoff. Now, I do. You made a great point about, a quarterback coming out with the scripted plays as compared to how he handles the rest of the game. And I think that's something we have to look at here. Does Mac Jones come out with a Kyle Shanahan scripted offense and do well the early series? I don't know. I don't think that again, the injuries that you mentioned affected me more looking at the 49ers than the switch from Purdy to Mac Jones. But I do not give Brock Purdy the credit he deserves.
I think a lot of people don't. And look, draft bias plays a role in that, I think. And also, he doesn't have the intangibles that other quarterbacks have, like a guy like Jalen Daniels, who is playing tonight, Marty, against the Green Bay Packers. The Commanders are getting 3.5 points. That number has been sort of varying between 3 and 3.5. I'll just say this about the number for this game. I would back Washington at 3.5. We have to sometimes not go and look at final scores and look at the game in totality, right?
Yep.
The Commanders should have won that game 35-6. They dominated the Giants. It wasn't close. Now, the final score might have been a little close, but the Giants offense got nothing going on. They had some drops, certainly. The Commanders offense was very herky-jerky. It didn't look great at times, and they blew the end of the half situation where they got no points. The Packers look great early against the Lions. Come out, bing, bang, boom. Jordan Love looks great. The run game looks good. Parsons gets a sack. But to be fair, after the first bit of that game, they did kind of went down a tiny. Now, part of it is the natural course of a game and whatnot. But I think if the Commanders win 35-6 and the Packers win by 7, this number is not 3.5. So that's why I'm backing the Commanders here tonight. I think the Commanders with Daniels and I just love Daniels. And I think in any game, his ability to create plays always gives them opportunity. And the Packers didn't pressure very much. Pressure, I mean blitz against the Lions. And to me, if you let Jalen Daniels have time to throw and run, he's kind of going to pick you apart.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just think that these are 2 win because quarterbacks. So, and we want to talk about the offenses because they're really good. But, Jeff, watching the games, both those games last week, these defensive lines are really, to me, probably going to be the key. Whichever defensive line can get more pressure, can stop the run, and really the Packers' ability to run on the Commanders. I think that's the key to the game here. Both these defenses played well. Both the defensive lines really look good. I think that one of the matchups when the Commanders are on offense is to see how the rookie tackle Connerly does against the Packers pass rush. But this is a game that, I think you flip a coin, Jeff. I mean, this very well could be a preview of the NFC Championship game. Now, I'm not throwing out the Eagles by any means, but I think those are the three teams that two of them will be in the NFC Championship. You got to give the Packers the home field nod here. You're right, 3.5. I like the Commanders too. If you get 3, I don't know.
A couple things to note here for prop wise. Very clearly in game one, the Commanders went with Krosky Merritt to be their number one back. I know they went with Eckler, but that's not really his game anymore. So Krosky Merritt right now, over 41.5 is something that I'm eyeing. The other one that you mentioned is interesting. So the Commanders' right tackle, Josh Connerly, first game, it was a little bit rough at times, Marty. And I'm not sure wagering on Parsons to have a sack is the way to go here, but you could look at Van Ness or look at someone else along that defensive line to have a sack who might, maybe they put Gary out there against the right tackle, but Parsons is going to attack him. What's the Commanders' plan? Are they going to leave a tight end in? Does that lower the receptions for a tight end? They have to make sure to find a way that Connerly does not get Jane Daniels killed, because it was rough. It's a rookie. It's first start. It happens. Nothing. No judgment on Connerly, but you put this on film, man. They're going to attack it for a month. The Commanders have to know that position needs a little bit of help.
Yeah, I actually like Gary to get a sack here tonight. I forgot. I think it was like plus 176, but I did like him. Hopefully he doesn't get thrown out before the game starts like Jalen Carter did last week.
Well, let's hope he doesn't either. Marty, let's move our attention to the Sunday games. We'll start with a Super Bowl rematch. It's coming up next on the GM Shuffle presented by DraftKings Network.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
Welcome back to the GM Shuffle. Geoff, Schwartz, Marty, Hurney. The GM Shuffle is presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Marty, we got a full slate of games here to start going through. And let's start with the one in Kansas City here. It's a Super Bowl rematch between the Chiefs and the Eagles. Right now, this number is floating at about Chiefs getting 1.5. Mahomes in his career, if he gets 3 points or less or is a short favorite, he is a team and a situation to wager on. I am fully acknowledging I am a Chiefs fan, Marty. I am worried about this game as a Chiefs fan. There are issues the Chiefs have that I think are not correctable by week 2. And the Eagles, the way they play, there's an advantage they have. And look, the Super Bowl is what it is, right? Happened last year. There have been changes they made on both rosters. But one thing that I don't think was discussed enough about this game was that the Chiefs did not touch Jalen Hurts the entire game. They stopped Saquon, great. Did not touch Hurts the entire game. His jersey was probably clean when he left the building. And nothing's gotten better for Kansas City. So the pass rush is still not there. And now you have an Eagles offensive line that's really good. If you can't get to Hurts again, they're going to score a ton of points. You have a secondary that has newer pieces for Kansas City as well. If this game was played in week 10 or 12, Marty, and I saw some of the young rookie defensive linemen starting to improve, right? And we saw some of the newer secondary pieces that are getting bigger roles now play a little bit better. I'm not saying it was terrible against the Chargers, but to me, the matchup of the Eagles offensive line, it's the Chiefs defensive line, gives the Eagles an advantage in this game that I'm not sure the Chiefs can overcome.
I agree. Listen, I can't pick a winner in this game. I mean, it's two heavyweights. And the one thing I will say, we talked about teams don't want to go 0-2. And, of course, nobody wants to go 0-2. But if any team that can survive 0-2 it's the Chiefs with the leadership they have in Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and their organization, and they know how to win. Geoff, one of the best bets I have this weekend, and you made me feel better about it, but it just looks you get skeptical when you think it might be a little too easy, but the over-under is 46.5 here. I love the over.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the Eagles secondary struggled last week. I think the Chiefs are I think this is a high-scoring game. I think it's a really close scoring game, and really could be won by the team with the quarterback with the ball in his hands last.
You mentioned the 0-2 start, and this is a theme that we're going to continue throughout the show because there are teams that we're going to back and maybe we don't like that might go 0-2. And, players don't pay a lot of attention to trends when you're playing. You have blinders on, right? You just focus on the game ahead of you. But one thing that we did know was the 0-2 is bad, okay? And our coaches trust that. They made sure that we know we've seen so far this week. Dan Campbell called their game a must win, right? He knows it.
Yep.
And I'll give you the data right here. You start since this is since 1990. Okay, you start 0-2. You make the playoffs just 12% of the time. You win the division just 6% of the time. If you start 0-2 in the division, you win it 3% of the time. I think you talked about this last time. You were on the 92 Chargers, right? That won the division starting 0-2, and you were in the front office there. So
0-4.
You've seen it.
We
but
started 0-4, finished 11-5.
So so right here, if you start 0-4, you win the division 1 out of 106 times. That is the one that did it. But so players know this, coaches know this, Chiefs know this, and that doesn't mean they're going to win. I know people are saying, "How can the Chiefs be 0-2?" Well, they can. They can lose. It's pretty easy to envision that happening. On the other side, the Eagles secondary played poorly in week 1. Without Xavier Worthy, without Rashee Rice, is Thornton and Hollywood Brown and Kelsey going to make the Eagles secondary pay? I just don't like this in week 2, Marty. I don't get it. I'm a Chiefs fan. I want them to win, but I don't think it's happening. But I'll tell you this, Marty. I'm not betting against Mahomes. I like the
Right.
Eagles team total over. I have made that wager this week. It was 23.5. It is still 23.5. So I think the Eagles can get to 24 points in this game. But I'm going to stay away from the spread here, or you like the total. So over 47 right now. I like the Eagles team total over 23.5. All right, let's move to some 1:00 games here. Jacksonville 1-0 at Cincinnati 1-0. You can make the case that the Bengals could have easily lost the first game of the season. The Browns missed a field goal, an extra point. Joe Burrow did not play well again in week 1 against the Browns. This number is going to be 3.5 right now. Jacksonville's getting 3.5 in this game. Minus 115. Bengals minus 3.5, minus 105, and the total here is 48.5. All right, Marty. I know you like a sign this one. What do you like?
Yeah, I listen, Geoff. The last 24 hours or so, I have really gotten strong on this game in several areas. I like the Bengals team total 26 over 26.5. I like the game total. I think it's 48.5. At least that's what I got. 48.5. And then I like the Jaguars getting the 3.5. I think this is a team that nobody thinks about, right? And Trevor Lawrence has been so under the radar in the last few years that everybody forgets that this guy's a good quarterback. He's a top quarterback. Yeah. And really, because of the situations around him, hasn't had a real good opportunity. Boy, last week I watched that game. I went back and watched it. It looks like he and Liam Cohen have a real chemistry working right there. I think, listen, the Browns always give the Bengals offense a hard time historically. I think the Bengals score. I think the Jaguars score. And I'm not, I'm going to stick with the 3.5, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Jaguars went into Cincinnati and won this game.
So worth noting here, Joe Burrow weeks 1 and 2 versus weeks 3 through 18. So 1 and 2. This is the second week, obviously. 2 and 9, completes only 63% of the passes versus 69%, nearly 70% outside of week 1 and 2. Yards per attempt is 2 yards shorter. More interceptions, passer rating way down. So interesting that Burrow has struggled in this spot. When he gets more comfortable throughout the season, he plays better. Now, to be fair, a lot of years he's come into training camp a little beat up, Marty. That's not the case this year. The offense is whole. The offensive line really worries me still. It's not good. And I don't know if Jackson wants a pass rush to really take advantage of it, but every week I watch the Bengals play and they get the quarterback killed, man. Marty, at some point it's going to really cost them. It's unfortunate to say that, but the offensive line always worries me in any Bengals game. The last thing here, interesting. So Travis Hunter played 45 snaps in game one, 39 on offense, 6 on defense. He caught 6 balls for 33 yards, had 8 targets, had 1 tackle. He looked pretty good on offense. He looked shifty. He looked quick. He looked like the Heisman winner. Defensively, didn't play a ton. The rain delay in that game might have sort of messed with the reps he was going to get. Plus, it wasn't a close game at the end, so I think they sort of were like, "You're done on defense." They talk about getting more defensive reps this week, Marty. I don't like this plan of offense and a couple defensive reps. I don't know how he practices on defense. You can't just go out there and play secondary. Like, you have to practice that. How much are you practicing secondary during the week if you're trying to be a full-time wide receiver? I think it gives a tell to the offense will figure out every time Travis is in, they're running man coverage. Every time he's in, they're running cover 2, they're running cover 3. They can't give him a wide variety of things to do. So I don't love it. But they're going to get more reps on defense this week, at least according to what they've reported.
Just trying to get your best athlete on the field, right? I mean, I get it, but
I get it, Marty.
you know,
I mean, you guys played me. I was kick returner for a couple games. I mean, I get it. Like, I get putting your best athletes out there. Kick returner, I should say, not kick returner. I did have one return though, Marty. I don't know if you remember. 2009.
I lost my breath there for a second.
Yeah. I had a return in 2009 for 16 yards against Tampa Bay. I have video of it and everything. It was I was high kneeing in it. I got hit so hard. And I come off the field, Marty. Okay, I come off the field, and John Fox yelled at me for not holding the ball with 2 hands. And it was like he ruined the buzz. We were like celebrating. All the linemen came over me. We were super celebrating. And Foxy was like, "Schwartz, come here. Hold the ball with 2 hands next time." I'm like, sure. My first time ever. 2 hands.
He had to. He wanted to hug just like everybody else, but he had to.
Probably. Yeah, it was.
I get you. I mean, I see a lot of points in this game. I mean, Travis Etienne, he might have had his best game, right? Last week. I mean, he runs for 143.
Yeah.
I just think that both offenses are going to be hard to stop in this game. So, I don't know. We'll see.
So if you start 2-0, you are a team that makes the playoffs. Like 70% of the time. Like, it's a good spot to be in. I was out on the Bengals this year, so this is an interesting spot for me to maybe I have them to not make the playoffs. Like, starting to find opportunities to hedge because I just don't think. I think with their offensive line and defense, you just aren't going to make the playoffs very often. But if they start 2-0, man, I kind of feel like I have to reassess how I think about this team because that's a playoff team. Sorry, 64% of the time it's a playoff team. Many years, Marty. I don't know if I'm going to be wrong about them based off this game.
I like Cincinnati, and it's funny because the last 24 hours, I really kind of really like the Jaguars over the last 24 hours in this game. And as far as I'm concerned, the Bengals can win by 3 points. I'm good, but I do think the Bengals are going to be in competition for a wild card spot. I don't think they'll win the division, but I think they are good enough to compete for a wild card spot. So I agree with you, Geoff. It's just the Jaguars. Listen, there's always that team that comes out of nowhere. Is the Jaguars that team this year?
Very quickly, you mentioned you saw a connection between Trevor Lawrence and Liam Cohen. What'd you notice in game one?
I think that his command at the line of scrimmage, he just felt more comfortable getting them in, getting them out, kind of knowing who to go to, got rid of the ball fairly quickly. I just thought that there was a rhythm there that you see between quarterbacks and offensive coordinators when things are going right. I just like the rhythm that he played with.
It was better than I thought it would be. I'm not out on Trevor Lawrence, but I just didn't know what to expect with this third coach now in his young career. All right, Marty, we're going to start ripping through some of these games. We'll start with a couple division games where both teams are 0-1, that dreaded 0-2. Can they avoid that? And we'll start getting through our best bets and do all of that next on the GM Shuffle presented by DraftKings Network.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
Welcome back to the GM Shuffle. Geoff, Schwartz, Marty, Hurney. We're talking all things NFL games this weekend. Of course, we have a full slate, 16 games, 32 teams, Marty. Let's get to a couple division games here that are going to be super important for the teams looking to avoid the 0-2 start. The Bears at the Lions. Both teams lost week one, two different ways they lost. And this game is in Detroit. Detroit's favored by 6. Again, 0-2 start. You win the division 3% of the time. Dan Campbell has said this is a must-win game. I like him saying that, like being so honest, essentially, about it, right? Letting his team know the stakes of this game, Marty. This is really interesting to me because the Lions looked very disjointed, might be the way to put it, Marty, in week one, where new OC, new DC, and then on top of that, they reached their ceiling. So I think they reached their ceiling last year. And then, so there was a little bit of fallback, but the offensive line wasn't as good. Jared Goff now without Ben Johnson has pretty much been an average quarterback in his career. And it did not look like the team we saw the last 2 seasons. They were physically beat up at the line of scrimmage. There wasn't as much offensive explosion. And is that just a symptom of week one without Ben Johnson? Or is that a symptom of something much larger? The Lions are taking a step back this season. I'm not concerned about the Lions, Marty, but 6-point favorites when I don't think you're playing as well as you can early, that would make me take the Bears possibly.
Yeah, I think this is you feel good about the money line with Detroit. I think that the Lions have a real good chance to win this game just because, we talked about when you look at the Bears, and I think if you stick to this, Caleb Williams, I think the Bears are going to be good eventually. I really do. And I think Caleb Williams is going to be a top quarterback in this league. We saw it with a fast start the other night. And then, as you say, once it got off the script, once he had to get to the line and make changes, get him in and out of plays, and read the coverages, his production went down. And I think that's something that we can expect throughout the year. I think he's going to get much better. And I think there is a point in the year that if you see them starting to click and improve, you start to put an eye on the Bears. But right now, I think that Detroit has the advantage. I agree, Geoff, that the change in coordinators is huge. So are the Lions as good a team right now as they were last year? No. But I think everybody still wants to get behind them because, they played so well last year and they came on at the end of the year before. I just think that I like them at home to win the game. Would feel very uncomfortable, as you say, given the 6 points.
So a couple of notes here on the Lions offense. Week 1, 13 points. That's the fewest since week 14 of 2023. Total yards, week 8, 2024. Yards per play, only 3.8. That was even prior to Ben Johnson was the lowest they had that in 2021. And then yards per carry, 2.1. Also worth noting, the Lions are 11-4 following a loss since 2022. So they bounced back pretty well. Marty, getting to the Bears side quickly before we move on to Giants Cowboys. The offensive line for the Bears, I was surprised, did not play very well against Minnesota. Now, give Minnesota credit, but Hargrave beat Dahlman one-on-one immediately, sacked Caleb Williams. I thought Joe Tooney looked a little bit his age. Their tackles weren't great. They didn't run the ball very well. Now, Swift, there were some videos floating on the internet. They weren't great representations of what Swift can and cannot do. I also thought, again, I didn't watch the film intensely yet of this game, but just watching it, live on Monday, I did feel like the Bears offense, and it's a fair criticism because this happens all the time with the new offense. It just looked like herky-jerky, right? Like there wasn't really a style in week one. Now, I've said this, I'll repeat this 1,000 times. It's so true. I've been in a new offensive install in 2011 when Ron Rivera came over. I've been in a new offensive install in 2023 with Andy Reid, with Tom Coughlin in 2014, 2013, and 2011. It's hard, man. It takes half a season to feel really comfortable in a brand new offense. It might even take 12 weeks. I think a good example is on the other side is Vic Fangio's defense last season. It took them about half a year, right, to figure out what they were, what they're going to be. Because think about it, you have to run everything 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times against different looks to figure out what you want. And I've been on offenses that said, "Hey, this is what we're good at. We're stopping it. We're going somewhere else." And it takes half a season for that to happen. So I'm not surprised it looked that way, but I think the expectations were so high on Ben Johnson that now on the road against a wounded Lions team that needs a win badly, I do think it's a bad matchup for the Bears.
I agree. And again, sure, the switch with to a different coordinator is extremely hard with Jared Goff, a veteran quarterback. Just look at the other side. How hard is it now for Caleb Williams in year 2 in his second coordinator? So, again, while I think the Bears have a chance to maybe be a better team at the end of the year, listen, I think this is the Packers division and the Vikings behind them. So I think these two teams are going to have a hard time making the playoffs in this division. But I still think right now, I think the Lions are a better team. Can the Bears be the better team by the end of the year? Maybe so.
If you like what you're hearing on the GM Shuffle, there's even more VSiN Pro. Betting splits, power ratings, and sharp analysis, all for just $9.99 your first month. Go to vsin.com/subscribe and check out all these subscription options. All right, Marty, one more division game here to get to. Giants, Cowboys. This number now is 4.5. Cowboys are at 4.5. It was as high as 6. It's come back down pretty quickly. It moved today. So as we're recording this, you might get a different number. All as usual, odds always subject to change here. Total 44.5. I like the Cowboys at 5.5. I love them at 4.5. Marty, I think the Giants just aren't good. I don't know how else to put it. And we saw Russell Wilson in week 1 be Russell Wilson. Already talking about playing Jackson Dart, even though Dable said that they're not going to do it to start the game. Look, if they enter halftime, Marty, with 3 to 7 points, Jackson Dart's coming out of halftime. Like they're not the leash is very short for Russell Wilson. And I like the way Dallas played in week 1. Offensively, we talk about this a lot with Dallas. When they're whole, right? When Dak is playing and the wide receiver, that's a good offense. It's always been a good offense. We saw that week 1. Obviously, the weird second half with the rain delay kind of throw that out, in my opinion. You have extra time to prepare for this game. The Dallas pass rush is a concern. Can you stress the Giants' offensive line, which didn't play well against the Commanders? Andrew Thomas, as if we're talking right now, we don't know if he's playing or not playing. But I'm just sort of pro-Dallas, anti-Giants, all lay the 4.5 with the Cowboys.
Yeah, I agree there. I like the Cowboys in that spot too at 4.5. I just, too, Geoff, if you look back, and maybe it's just, my years dealing with owners, but the Cowboys did not play well at home last year. They did not. They were bad at home last year. And as an NFL team, there is a lot of emphasis put on winning at home. Number one, it helps your playoff chances very, very much, but also you have to keep the fans involved and happy. And I think that there will be a mantra this week going into that game with the Cowboys as far as, listen, let's protect our house. Let's play well at home. I think the Giants are struggling anytime you go into the game and you're talking about 2 quarterbacks playing instead of 1. That's not a good sign. I think the Thomas injury really hurts them. I just think the Dallas Cowboys win this game pretty handily.
Quickly, do you think that Jackson Dart will play in this game if Russell Wilson struggles?
Yes. Yeah, especially,
I think
it depends how much, but he's got to. Right now, as a Giants fan, you're looking for signs of hope. And as an organization, you're looking for a sign of hope to give your fan base. I'm not sure that, I don't think the expectation should be very high if he does go into the game. But yes, I could see Brian Dable making the change. Probably at half. He probably gives Russell Wilson at least the first half. Don't you think?
First half, yeah. So I think at halftime that he'd come out.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to another division game, but it is featuring a 1-0 team in the Buffalo Bills hosting the New York Jets. This game is actually in New York. My bad. New York is hosting the Buffalo Bills. Right now it's 6.5. That number is going to be, I think it will be batted around. It was 7, 6.5 today. It might be 7 back tomorrow. Jets again. Those 6.5 points here. This is maybe an uncomfortable question because we like Aaron Glenn, but are we sure his defenses are good? Like, I know there were injuries last year, but then in week 1, his defense got shredded by Aaron Rodgers, who we just sort of didn't expect to happen. What is Buffalo going to do to their defense this weekend?
That's a good question. I really thought I watched that game. I really thought it was more the Steelers' offense as far as fitting Aaron Rodgers, and I thought the Steelers did a lot of good things offensively. I do have faith in Aaron Glenn's defenses. I like the physical mentality. Anytime a team comes and wins a game like the Bills did, I think there's a lot of people that think they're going to keep rolling. But I like the Jets here and +7. I mean, I was able to get the 7 earlier in the week, and I just think that of all the AFC East teams, historically, I think the Jets give the Bills the most problems. And I think that Josh Allen still hid some issues, I think, Geoff, last week. And one of them is still, I have questions about the Bills rushing defense. And if they can't stop the run against the Jets are going to have some success offensively. So I kind of, coming off the huge win, no matter how veteran team you are, no matter what kind of leader you got, it's hard to get back after such an amazing win like that and hit the reset button.
Yeah.
Josh Allen, if anybody can do it, Josh Allen will get them to do it. But I just think the Jets play them tight here. I think the Bills win the game, but I like the Jets +7.
Especially in a short week, having to have that emotional game and then obviously short-ish week, right? Sunday night. And then come back and play that way. Kudos Jets offensive line. I thought did a really good job early on in the season. They got some young guys, some young pieces. Obviously, Vera Tucker's out for the season. There was some good film put out against that Steelers defensive front. And again, the Jets offense with Justin Fields looked a little bit different as we expected. At some point, I think teams catch up to what the offense is going to be with Fields. It might not be this weekend. Fields' ability to run and create plays. Eventually that ends. You got to be able to throw from the pocket. And so I'm curious if and when that happens, probably not week 2, I should say, but eventually, it'll catch up. All right, Marty, we have a lot more games to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to just go right to it. We're going to give you our best bets, our favorite wagers that we have for this weekend. We'll do that all next on GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings Network.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
Welcome back to the GM Shuffle. Geoff Schwartz, Marty, Hurney. We've gone through a handful of games here. I want to get to one more division game before we sort of maybe give our best bets and our favorite plays here. This game is the final game of the weekend, and we're on separate sides here. This one here. So it's the Chargers at the Raiders. This number has been anywhere between 3 and 3.5. It depends on where you look. Again, the important part, in my opinion, of wagering is getting the best of the number, especially in the NFL, that half point. So go on DraftKings Sportsbook right now. Raiders +3, +102. It's going to go back to 3.5 soon. So just keep an eye on that. But get the Raiders at 3.5 if you like them, which I have. You have the Chargers, I believe, -3. So you have, we can actually, you can push, I can win. That can happen. We'll both be happy there. But Marty, I like the Raiders in this spot. Not to win the game, but to cover. The Chargers, that was their biggest win in how long, Marty? In many years, right? That was a really good win
memory,
for them.
that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so I just think that emotionally now going on the road to Vegas is going to be a little bit of a letdown. I really was impressed with what Vegas did. I thought Vegas played a tough physical game against the Patriots on the road. The Patriots aren't very good, at least right now offensively. But I think there's a great spot to back the Raiders here, getting 3.5 points. We know what they want to be. We know their identity. They did it in game 1. I'm fading a little bit of the Chargers sort of, not hype train because they deserve to be hyped up, but just that emotional ride of winning against Kansas City in Brazil.
Yeah, I can see that, Geoff. I mean, listen, I don't like betting against Pete Carroll coach teams. Okay, I mean
Yeah.
he did a great job with him going out to New England last week. They surprised me. I actually had New England in that game. But this is a game. We talk about 0-2 starts, 0-2 starts, because this is a game of confidence and momentum, and it's an argument I've had with analytics guys for many, many years. But I think this league is a confidence and momentum league. That's why starting fast is so important. I think the Chargers, with that victory over the Chiefs, and you watched the game, Geoff, I watched it. We saw how hard that was. I mean, there were ebbs and flows the whole game. You were saying, okay, can the Chargers get over the hump? I think they got over the hump. And I think that, Greg Roman did a phenomenal job with that offense, throwing the ball as well as rushing it. I just think the Chargers are going to keep that momentum and go into Vegas and win this game. I like the 3. I would worry about giving more, but I think they win the game by between 3 and 7.
Well, hopefully three works for both of us. I'll be happy with that. Let's talk Seahawks at the Steelers here. Seahawks getting 2.5. That means the Steelers are favored by 2.5 here. Steelers off a win that maybe you argue they shouldn't have had, but they won, which is important. Hey man, ugly win's better than a pretty loss, as we know here. This number actually is 3 now, so it's 3, a total 39.5. I traditionally don't like to bet Tomlin as a home favorite. I think those wagers tend to not be as good as when he's a home dog. So I have nothing on this game, Marty. Seattle just didn't. I wasn't high on them this year. I looked at Sam Darnold. I looked at the weapons. I just think it was there. Defensively, they were fine against the Niners. But I think if I were to take a side, it would be Pittsburgh here. I know you like the money line in this one.
Yeah, I do. I like the Steelers money line. I think that you have to be careful, Geoff. The Seahawks lost the game at home last week that I thought they should have won, or they had opportunities to win. Now they're traveling east, and this is one of the things I've always, and you could speak to it more so. Teams traveling from the West Coast to the East Coast. Seattle, when you go to Seattle, it's like flying to a different country. And it takes sometimes, depending on the flight going east to west, it takes 6.5 hours. Well, that flight coming from west to east with the time change is extremely hard. They do not play as well when they do that, obviously, than when they're at home. I think the Steelers have a huge home field advantage. And I really think I made a huge mistake when I made the comment last week that the Steelers have gotten away from the way they do things. I think that team that you saw against the Jets was exactly how Mike Tomlin wants to play. It fits Arthur Smith's philosophy as far as the play action. They protected Aaron Rodgers. I just got a feeling from the Steelers that they are going to use that game and take another step forward. So I really like them on the money line. If it ever dipped below 3, I'd look at them on the line as well. But I think they beat the Seahawks here. I really like them as a money line play at -166.
Yeah, I think we saw just a very under control offense. The one thing I was surprised about was Caleb Johnson didn't get any carries. I was a little surprised by that. I thought he would do a little more in the run game for them, but obviously not going to happen. A couple other ones that I want to fire on because I do like these and I have wagered on them. So I took New England plus the 1.5 at Miami, and it would be so NFL for Miami to play better this week after playing so poorly in week 1. But they're a team that I'm just off. I'm just off, Marty. Okay. It's not that they lost, it's how they lost. They looked unprepared, uninspired, and soft. Week 1 is when you should have almost, to argue, like your best preparation, right? You've been waiting weeks to play this game.
Yeah.
And they got their butts kicked. And I get a Mike Vrabel team off a loss. I trust Mike Vrabel. Look, the Patriots have problems offensively at the skill position players. We know that. Will Campbell struggled a little bit week 1. It happens. But I get a better coach, a more physical team. Tyreek Hill was already arguing with someone on the sidelines like a quarter into this game. And I saw that there's new offensive line additions for the Dolphins as well in this game. Man, I'm so out on the Dolphins, man. So I like Patriots plus 1.5. I when this game ends up being 27-19 for the Dolphins, I'm gonna laugh at myself for being a dummy and doing this, but I like New England, man. I really do. I'm just fading the Dolphins as much as I can right now.
I totally agree with you, Geoff. The only thing that keeps me off this game is what you said. It would be such an NFL thing for the Dolphins to come back and win. And I think that, you're looking at teams after week one going into week two, and the Giants and the Dolphins, I think you have major questions about. Both had little disagreements on the sidelines. And but you're so reluctant to just go against a team because of the first week, because teams do rebound in the NFL. But I totally agree with you. I like the Patriots. I'm not going to play this game, but if I did, I would be with you with the Patriots in plus 1.5.
The Broncos, fresh off kind of a clunker win against, not kind of, it was a clunker win against the Titans, head to Indianapolis. His number is now only 1.5 as a favorite for the Broncos here. Total 42.5. Look, my favorite play last week was the Colts. We went over this.
Yes, it was.
They played like I thought they would, Marty. The thing I wonder is if the Broncos play essentially better, right, than they played last week, and the Colts come back to earth a little bit with Daniel Jones. This is a 7 to 10 point win for the Broncos. Like this is like so. But if in week 2 no one's figured out, by no one I mean the Broncos, the Shane Steichen Daniel Jones offense, right? Which again, it's going to be a lot of the RPOs, the play action passes, taking the shots here and there. But it get figured out eventually. But you can make an argument in week 2, it's not going to be figured out. The Broncos offense doesn't come back to life. I have a hard time with this one, Marty. This is a sneaky line, in my opinion. And I'm staying far away from it.
I'm with you. I'm staying away from it too. I was hoping that Bo Nix would show more last week. But I just, the Colts, we talked about Daniel Jones. We talked about what a great win it was. Now they're on the road, and I don't know. I can't touch this game. I'm with you. I really wouldn't be surprised with either team winning.
So let's hit one more game, then we'll recap with some of our best plays for the weekend. You like Arizona minus 6.5 at Carolina. I was disappointed in the Panthers last week, Marty. I just thought I would see a little faster start from them. Why do you like the Cardinals in this game?
Well, and I might not if I messed up. They're at home, right? Are they at home?
Yes.
Yeah, they're at home. So I just think that the Cardinals are going to be, I think they're going to score points. I think the Panthers, while I think they're a better team than they looked last week, I just think that, listen, we've talked about the offense line. We've talked about the weapons for Bryce Young, and I really do like their young first-round receiver that they took this year. I just think that playing in Arizona, the trip, and I think Arizona's a better team. So if you put that together, I like them. I don't know about the points, but I do like them to win the game.
All right, Marty, quickly, let's get your recap of your best bets or sort of A bets for the weekend.
Well, we've talked about a lot of them. That Jacksonville Bengals game, I'm going to be watching it every second of it, Geoff, because I'm going to have 3 plays there. I like Jacksonville at plus 3.5. I love the Bengals team total over at 26.5, and I like the game over at 48.5. We've talked about this game. I like those 3 plays.
Okay. You also have down here just to make sure you the Jets plus 7 if it's still available. You like and the Steelers money line.
That's plus 7. Yes, got the Jets plus 7. The Steelers money line. I would put the Jets plus 7, Steelers money line, and whatever bet I decide I feel best on the Bengals bet as a 3-team parlay. And if I put the team total over, that's at plus 460.
Yeah.
So I like those games. They're basically my A bets. I do B bets. I do like the Cowboys and the Chargers. And
Okay,
if I could
fantastic.
Cowboys at
Yeah.
-4.5, I would love the Cowboys.
So my best bets quickly. I like the Patriots to cover. The Dolphins. I like the Cowboys to cover. The Giants. That's now 4.5. Raiders +3.5, and Eagles team total over 23.5. That's it for this week's show. As usual, the GM Shuffle will be here every Monday and Thursday. We'll recap you on Monday. We'll give you a preview of all the games Thursday. You can find us on YouTube and your podcast platform of choice. We'll talk to you guys next week. Enjoy the games this weekend. Take care, everybody.